The psychological basis of a film addiction, an investigative research project into the biological process of an addiction and the causes, developed by Fitzgerald. A film addiction is a compulsive behaviour categorised by watching films or similar media consecutively and obsessively. This type of addiction requires basic features of human nature, including motivational drive, spatial perception, imagination, and social engagement. Professor Arthur Shimomura believes that the study of addiction can assist in forming a better understanding of our basic human nature. My investigation considered the techniques used by film directors in order to provoke an attachment to their media, which often leads to an addiction. Directorial choices are often made to initially engage the audience, but later to benefit their company in profits, opportunities, and influence. Methods include physical suturing, emotional suturing, and moral suturing. Physical suturing is a technique which involves the use of both camera and sound to make the audience feel as though they are physically experiencing the movie. Another prominent technique used is emotional suturing. This involves the inclusion of emotionally provoking scenes, characters, or situations. Many popular films produced also include moral suturing, where there is a conflict of values, requiring the audience to contemplate their decisions and relate to those of characters. Producers also often use attentional synchrony to engage the audience and to stimulate their brain. This technique configures our eye movement, behaviour, and causes us to direct our attention to a certain spot. This is achieved through the placement of actors, set design, sounds, movement, and editing. The Hassan study is an example of an investigation into the effect that captivating and enthralling clips have on the brain synchronization when compared to boring and mundane clips. It was concluded that the higher the percentage of intersubject correlation is, then therefore more of our attention is drawn to the film. This was tested by having a series of people watch 4 varying film clips. These clips were mundane and boring, whereas others were found to be exhilarating. The study showed that during an engaging story, 65% of the cortex was synchronized. Watching compelling clips induced broad coactive brain regions across subjects. Dependent on the film genre, some content caused higher brain synchronization. More exciting films caused more cortex activation. Alfred Hitchcock's thriller Bang You're Dead caused the highest brain activation, whilst Washington Street Park, a mundane film, caused the least. The explanation as to why some content provoked higher synchronization within the brain cortex was dependent on the genre of the film. This is proven in the image above. In a 2017 Netflix survey, it was discovered that an increasingly high amount of people have a higher tendency to binge a show rather than to take their time. More specifically, the survey revealed that 61% of their users typically watch between 2 to 6 episodes in the one sitting. The majority of these shows were classified under the genres of sci-fi, thriller, and horror, therefore supporting the discoveries of the Hassan study. The popular TV show horror, Stranger Things, was found to be the highest binge show, as on its second season's release date, 361,000 people watched all 9 episodes. For this investigation, I surveyed 17 participants asking general questions about TV shows and movies and questions about the participants' memory and recall of short clips regarding film techniques. Similar to the Hassan study, I used 4 videos certified by Jonathan Rodenberg, University of South Florida, Rebecca Ray and James Gross, Stanford University. These videos included 2 mundane clips and 2 emotionally arousing clips. The purpose of this study was to see how film techniques influence our memory and recall. The emotional arousing clips chosen were from The Champ and The Shining. The questions regarding close attention were answered correctly, an average of 91% of the time. My study also highlighted that questions regarding the intended effect of the clips were answered correctly, an average of 80% of the time. The mundane clips chosen were of Denali Highway, Alaska, and a train station. It was discovered that specific questions regarding the location of films were assumed, as they were only answered correctly 13% of the time. The study also showed that questions regarding emotional connection were answered correctly, an average of 81% of the time. conveying that the clips made the audience feel emotionless. Similar to the beginning of a drug addiction, television addiction begins with the first experience of watching TV. This is called the initial experimentation. Afterwards, people can either have no further use of television or can take part in non-problematic use. This means that they watch movies and TV shows infrequently and possibly only when with family or at a friend's house. In some cases, an individual will become addicted. This means that they will frequently watch TV shows and movies. These people then become dependent on watching such media and therefore are addicted. It's important to note that the transition from being a user to an abuser occurs more often when a product's availability is more accessible or the circumstances as to why change. When the brain develops an attraction to a film or such media, it begins with the viewer being engaged and enjoying the content. Dr. Renee Carr explains that during this time, your body is rewarded through the production of dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter that causes you to experience euphoria and feel good. Dopamine therefore causes you to experience a need and a want for movies and TV shows, therefore causing an addiction, as the craving for more dopamine intensifies. Dopamine increases during a pleasurable experience but is also released before the reward to assist in identifying the importance of environmental stimuli linked to the reward and to promote reward-seeking behaviour. The process of the reward pathway, which is associated to why we continue to act on our addictions, is known as the mesolimbic pathway. The pathway starts at the ventral tegmental area, the VTA, where dopamine is released. It is then sent to the amygdala, nucleus accumbens, prefrontal cortex, and hippocampus. These brain areas are associated with consolidating learned information and behaviours. Specifically, the amygdala is involved in the consolidation of emotional content in memories, and therefore forms lasting memories of our euphoric feelings as a result from the dopamine secretion, which occurs as we watch movies. The hippocampus works closely with the amygdala to consolidate other details of the memory, including what you were watching and where you were watching the film. This pathway therefore forms a lasting memory of the positive experience when watching a movie, and therefore makes it more likely you will continue to do so. Why are some people more susceptible to addictions than others? There are 3 factors that influence the susceptibility of acquiring an addiction. These are biological risk factors. If a family member has an addiction or abuse issue, psychological risk factors, how your mental state and personality relate to the addiction, and lastly, social risk factors, friends who have addictions or abuse issues. The combination of risk factors of each person develops their likelihood of having an addiction. How to come over an addiction. There are different treatments to stop and end an addiction, like detoxification to completely stop your addiction by removing the device, or psychological treatment like cognitive behavioural therapy, CBT, where you recognise thought patterns and coping patterns and understand how to deal with triggers, or motivational interviewing, finding a goal and reason why you want to change and recover from your addiction. However, it's important to realise that people will suffer with withdrawal symptoms, which may include anxiety or depression. So therefore, to prevent a relapse, a change in housing, friends or lifestyle can sometimes be necessary.